All right. I guess this is like the 15th grammar video that I've made. Good times. So, I wrote an email, and what it says is basically just that I'm making videos, what they're about, what the some issues I've encountered with like silence removal, the software I'm using, yada yada. And I asked for video requests if anybody has them. And so Elliot had a couple of replies to that. Let me bring this up here. And so he requested a video about the word that, and I'm going to try that. Very unambitiously. I'll talk about that in a moment because I was thinking about it. I was like, oh man, that is a huge topic. But I think I figured out a way to at least start a reasonable treatment of that, and maybe we can explore other stuff, other aspects of thatness. But first I wanted to reply to this. Why did you start making a bunch of videos now but not before? What changed for you? What clicked or made it work? What changed your mind? So there's various aspects of like various things that could go into an answer to this question. Some of which I don't really want to talk about, but I can talk about some of it. So I'll try and talk about as much as I feel like I can talk about. First, there was a practical thing, which is that I've discovered Screencast-O-Matic, which has the automatic silence removal. Now I'm still sort of fussing with that to an extent, and I still haven't gotten the results like really great. But the thing is that it's so easy. Like it's almost like one step. Like you make the video, you click the button to remove the silence, and boom. Now the silence removal is not as good as something I've used before, which is Reaper. But I just find the whole Reaper like workflow really annoying. I need something where it's like I make the video and then that's like there's no step 2. The only I mean that's not quite true because with even with Screencast-O-Matic, but like the only steps are, so I save the video as like an MP4, and then I start uploading it to YouTube, and simultaneously I upload it to so this is a site I uploaded to otter.ai. There might have been a bit of a jump cut there because I just meant to go to like the website. I didn't realize I was still logged in, so I didn't want all that showing up. But so otter.ai, and you basically, it's like drag and drop, like you just drop the video file in here when you're logged in, and it makes a transcript of it. So basically the YouTube processing happens because you have to upload it and then YouTube has to process it, and then I schedule a time for it to publish based on when I think the file will finish processing for high definition. Because YouTube, if you just let it do the default, it like if you just say okay, just like publish it, then it'll send out a notification to all your subscribers when the video is only processed for like, I don't know, is it like 360p or something? So it looks terrible, and especially with a screen video like this, it's useless. It's garbage. So I build in some delay using the scheduling feature, and while all that uploading and processing is happening, I also upload the video file to Otter, and then I get the transcript from Otter. I put it on Pastebin, and I link the transcript in the YouTube description, and everything is like done by the time, the like by the time the video's ready to go to HD, and you can view it in HD. The transcript is done. It's available online, so it's very fast and very easy. And there's almost nothing. There's very little like extra steps after making the video itself, and it's fast too. Because I kind of want to like pound these out. I don't want to have some big lag. And so the process I was doing before, if I wanted silence removal, like basically make the video, I would make it in like ScreenFlow or whatever, and put it into this Reaper audio editing app, do the silence removal, export that to a very large intermediate file, and then re-encode that in Handbrake, and then upload that to YouTube or whatever. So that's a bit of a more annoying like process stack. It works very well. Like the output is really good because in the in Reaper you can really fine tune the silence removal stuff. So the quality of the silence removal, and when I say silence removal, I mean like automatic, because obviously you can always like edit a video and edit the silences out, but that's really annoying. So what I try, I've tried to figure out ways to do that automatically. By the way, if you look online, you will find pages where people are like, "Oh, that's impossible. Just do it in Final Cut Pro, man." And it's like, okay, well, you're useless and giving bad advice. But that's an aside. So when I say silence removal, I'm talking about like automatic silence removal. And so far, I've figured out two reasonable ways to do that. One is to record videos natively in Screencast-O-Matic, and the other is to record videos, anywhere, and then import them into Reaper and do that whole stack. But I didn't want to deal with that. I just wanted to, with the Reaper stuff, I just wanted to be able to just, boom, 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 make the video, do the little tiny extra steps, in a few minutes in between doing other stuff at the end after having made the video, and have the video out like that same night. So I found that Screencast-O-Matic is helpful for being able to pound them out. So that's one aspect of the answer. There's more, but let me just get at least this part down. So the second part is that I've only recently realized how much sort of thinking things out loud and talking with myself helps in terms of understanding things. And it's kind of like writing stuff down, it's not like writing stuff down is better, but talking out loud is better than just sort of thinking it in your mind, because it's closer to writing it down. It's like you catch more errors. It's almost, it's a different thing, but it's kind of like, when you hear stuff read to you, you notice more of certain kinds of errors and like typos and sort of that sort of thing. When you say, it's a different kind of thing, but when you say stuff out loud, you just you say, oh wait, that doesn't actually make sense, because you're having to commit it to like a specific form. Like even if you're not writing stuff down, still putting things into words is committing it to reality in a way. Like you have to pick certain words, particular words in which to say the thing that you're going to say. And if you have to concretize it like that, if you have to put it out there, then it makes it more likely that you'll notice a mistake, as opposed to if something is just sort of kept vaguely in your mind, then it's a lot easier to not see stuff yourself. So another thing is, when I've thought about wanting to make videos before, I've thought, oh, like maybe I'll try and explain something so that other people can learn stuff. And that sort of put a burden on it, because on the making of the video, because it was like, oh, I have to explain stuff to this really high standard so that other people can get something out of it. Whereas these videos are just really for me and for my own understanding. And I would like to understand this particular topic of grammar better. I think it's interesting. And so I have like whereas with some topics I might be like more concerned about whether it's meeting a standard to inform or illuminate other people. With this, it's like the making of the videos is really just for me, for my own goals. And when I've when I make reference to videos that are for educating other people, it's more like I've thought of like hypothetical videos I haven't really made. That sort of thing. The stuff I've made before was more like the political or inspirational or that sort of thing, which was also for me. Like I made those because I wanted them to exist and because I think they're funny or nice or whatever. So yeah, I guess I figured out something where I love the doing, I guess, as opposed to wanting the secondary consequence of maybe educating other people, which wasn't sufficient motivation to actually get things done. Go figure, right? Shouldn't really be a surprise for an objectivist that would be the case. So that was a bit of a ramble, so let me figure out how I can sum that up coherently. What's going on here? So I basically tried to summarize the stuff that I talked over. I'm going to hold this email for now in case I think of anything else I want to say. I'm going to reply separately to that request, the request for a discussion of that. Or actually, yeah, because I guess I'll just talk about that in video. Well, do I want to? Do I want to do a written summary? No, I think I'll just talk over it in the video. Okay, so maybe I'll send this then, and then I'll just make this video and link Elliot when it's done and uploaded. I think that makes sense. So I thought about just going through a dictionary regarding that, but I like ThoughtCo. And the dictionary is just a big list of definitions. This is more sort of categorical. And so I thought I'd look at its approach with a critical eye, the ThoughtCo approach, and see if I think it makes sense or I have any objections. So that's going to be my treatment of the word that is going to be building off of this ThoughtCo discussion. Oh, and also I'll be making reference to Eliot's grammar treatment. So let's start off. So this says, the word that is a common word in English that is used in many different ways. Did you notice the use of that in the previous sentence? In this case, that was used as a relative pronoun as a complement. Now that's interesting because that doesn't fit with, well, right, so I'm trying to think of the structure of this sentence. I actually can't decide whether word or that is the subject, or if it's both of them somehow. But in any case, is a linking verb, and word is a subject complement, and in this case it's a noun. And then we have this prepositional phrase in English, which is describing word. And then that is used in many different ways. Okay, so that is used in many different ways is modifying word. It's not modifying English. Like this and this are separate structurally. They're both connected to word independently, I think. So then, yeah, okay. That can fit with how I've seen complement used, I think. Although, because this is a subject complement, then this would be like a complement of a complement. Also, I'm not sure, this doesn't seem like the right spelling of complement to me. Yeah, a polite expression. Yeah, I think the correct one is C, a phrasal category that is combined with a lexical head or function word to form a larger constituent. Okay, that's right, but this is for the E complement, not the I complement. So I think that's a typo. That's not a big deal though, but I just thought it was interesting. So often that can be used or left out of a sentence entirely. For example, many English students know that you can leave out that, depending on the instance. That is true. This guide to the use of that will help you understand when to use the word as well as when it's okay to leave it out. By the way, just an overall comment. Like, I'm not doing my own treatment of that because I thought that seemed like it'd be a bit difficult for the amount of time I wanted to spend on this. But I do think there's value in going through somebody else's treatment critically. There's also value to making your own treatment. And especially if you're like super confused on stuff. I've had some confusion about that, but I think I typically get the general idea of how it's being used. It's still good to review though, because it's got a lot of stuff to it. It's a word in which there's a lot of weight put in English in terms of the amount of jobs it has to do. So that is a determiner. That is used as a determiner at the beginning of sentences to indicate one object which is far from the speaker. Right, as in like this and that. Note the plural form of that as a determiner is those. That and those are generally used, no? Generally used with there to indicate that the object is not close to the speaker. That's my friend Tom over there. That's a pencil you have in your hand. Those paintings are by Cezanne. That is my house on the corner of the street. That is a relative pronoun. That can be used as a relative pronoun to so hang on. So I think this is clear. I don't have any objection. Yeah, I don't have any objection to this category. Although I will say, actually, now I do have an objection. Because I was thinking, like, so this says, that's my friend Tom over there. And Webster's third says, as a pronoun, the person, thing, or idea pointed to, mentioned, or understood from the situation. That is my father. That's my friend. That's my father. Those seem pretty close. And the other thing is, right. So when I think of a determiner usage of that, I'm thinking of like, that cake looks delicious. Like, a determiner is kind of like an adjective. In fact, they were often traditionally categorized as adjectives, I think, although I guess that's broken down some. But when it's standing for the thing, when it's standing for the substantive noun that's being mentioned, as opposed to modifying or indicating, like, this pencil. Right. See, this is my issue. Those paintings are by Cezanne. That is what I think of as a determiner case. This seems totally different, because this is, that is my friend Tom over there. Like, what it seems like is, I wonder if it's, yeah, I was trying to follow this thought earlier. I wonder if it's the same thing as the expletives, where basically you need a noun here as the subject, like in this place. Like, just because English wants a noun there in terms of the syntax or whatever. But it's not really, I see. Because normally a pronoun, because what I want to call it is a pronoun, but a pronoun has an antecedent typically, even if it's elsewhere in like the paragraph or whatever, or way earlier. It's still the antecedent by definition comes before the pronoun. But when you have this weird case where you have something that's like a pronoun, but then it's not, where it's like a forward reference, then you can't, it's like fine, but you can't just do the straightforward, typical standard analysis where you say like that's the subject and yada yada. Like, you have to think about it a bit more at least. And so I get why they're calling it a determiner, but I'm not sure I agree. Because they're basically saying, like, this isn't a normal, like, subject. And that's true. But I think, I don't know if I agree with determiner either. So since I'm already sort of strenuously objecting from the get-go, rather than organizing my approach around this ThoughtCo stuff, I'm just going to use it as examples of like questions to bring up. So like, okay, so I analyzed this example. And that's my friend Tom over there. And I built up to analyzing this from a different example. So I'm analyzing it as an expletive in the sense of syntactic expletive. I don't mean like curses. It's a technical grammar term. And the idea is that when you have something like it at the beginning, it is important that you work hard for the exam. That it is just here because English wants a subject at the beginning. You know, pretty much all English sentences follow the thing verbing order. And so even though the it hasn't been introduced, we basically still give it its position. And so it is in what Eliot's terminology, I guess, would be a forward reference. So anyway, that's what syntactic expletives are like. And so likewise, when I see that's my friend Tom over there, I think that's kind of like my friend Tom is over there. That drops out, and because it's not really doing anything, it's just a placeholder, like the it was. And so there's no place for the that after you rearrange the sentence. You know, sometimes you can rearrange stuff, especially stuff that involves certain question words or some other words, and like everything still has a place that's sensible, but here there's no place for the that. So I think that this is wrong as an example of a determiner use of that, right? So under pronoun, Webster's third has this definition: the one farther away, the one less immediately under observation or discussion. Those are elm trees and these are maples. That is porcelain and this is plastic. And I'm fine with calling this a pronoun. I just don't think it's... I mean, let's look up determiner. Specific, the denotation of a noun phrase. That's not very helpful. Well, on a different perspective than ThoughtCo, though. Determiners under the category demonstratives. Now, this is really interesting. I find these two examples really interesting because, see, when I think of rearranging this sentence, I might put it as John's, that's an adjective, house is this. And so that's fine. I have no objection to that, because this is a linking verb, this is a noun, and then this is basically, you know, and that rearrangement, this would have an antecedent, and it's just describing like the location of the house, like, or indicating that the person thinks it's this one over here as opposed to that one over there. So that seems fine to me. to say this is a determiner. Because it is, see, so this site, whatever this is, Learn English, is talking about determiners and says they're used in front of nouns to indicate whether you're referring to something specific or of a particular type. An example they give is like these apples, my keys. Whereas if it's standing for a noun, you know, then that's different. Like, I don't think determiner always followed by a noun is meant to include like after a linking verb. Like, I don't think that's what it means. Now, I guess you could read this sentence in such a way that it's like, that Tom is my friend Tom over there, right? But I think that's awkward, and basically you're just like, that would make this a determiner. But we'd be basically engaging in like awkward non-standard repetition of the simple subject and on both sides of the verb just to make this a determiner. So I still say that I think this is like a pronoun. Actually, so now I'm thinking about this example. Well, right, no, it's okay to call it a determiner because an adjective can serve in the complement position of a linking verb. And so if determiners are basically adjectives, like a special like subcategory of adjective, like articles are, and you see this actually puts articles under determiners, but whatever. So if they're like that, I mean, you can't have an article in the after a linking verb, but that's like if I notice. So in the original sentence, is this John's house? The determiner is followed by a noun. In my rewritten sentence, it's not followed by a noun, but it still conforms to a standard English grammatical pattern. Noun, linking verb, adjective. So I think that's fine. So you see, I just wanted to look up determiners. And Webster's Third says, a word belonging to a group of limiting noun modifiers that in English consists of, I think it's a big list and it includes that and this, possessive adjectives and possessive case forms, and is characterized by occurrence before descriptive adjectives modifying the same noun, as that in that big yellow house. So that comports with my adjective view. Right, this American Heritage 4, which I found pretty good, also says it's a noun modifier. So a noun modifier can't be a noun. Okay. So initially I thought I was going to have a problem with the rewriting in terms of calling this a determiner. But I think it's fine. It's basically it's the same thing. House is this, house is that, right? So it's interesting that adverbs are generally regarded as telling you like where something is happening, but that is basically telling you where something is partially, but it's regarded as being more of an adjective. So I'm just going to look at some of the other thought code discussion. So I went off on this huge tangent about this one issue. I mean, I think it's good to get it straight, but there's a lot more categories. So that can be used as a relative pronoun to connect two clauses. In this case, that can also be substituted by who or which. Examples, that equals which. Tom bought the apples that the man was selling. Right. And it's also worth noting that in each of these cases, like it is connecting the two clauses. That's true. But it's also serving a role within the clause. So in other words, so Tom bought the apples and then the man was selling that. Peter invited the boy that was new in class. So Peter invited the boy and... Oh. No, wait a second. Oh. It's... I got thrown off because there's something more natural to me about reading this sort of thing where when this is serving as the object sometimes than as the subject. But right, it's just Peter invited the boy. That was new. And that is standing for boy here. So it's like boy was new. Peter invited the boy, boy was new. Or the boy, if you prefer. So I think that makes sense. I'll just use their example. Right, I just said you could read this rewritten clause with the apples as instead of... So we started out with that the man was selling, and I rewrote it as the man was selling that. And you could also, if you want to make everything really explicit, say the man was selling the apples. So Tom bought the apples, the man was selling the apples. And like you see why we use why we use stuff like relative pronouns. Because like Tom bought the apples, period. The man was selling the apples, period. That gets a little tedious. So this is more elegant, but it's less clear. And so if you want to understand the details of the structure, you have to unpack a bit of the complexity and make it more clear. I said it serves as a subject. I figure if I'm going to use... I shouldn't use a pronoun there. I should just use the actual word. So I think this is fine. I have no objections to this. So that in a clause as an object stuff, I think is mistaken. And the reason is that I think... So basically what they say is... I just wanted to bring up the right Eliot example. So basically what the ThoughtCo people say is that can be used in clauses that act as the object of the verb, meaning this whole thing is acting as the object of the verb, whereas Eliot analyzes this as that is being like a forward reference, and that is serving as an object of like this part of the sentence, but the second part of the sentence is its own separate clause that is just being referred to by that. And I had some thoughts about maybe like I'm a little bothered by the fact that the of the idea of a pronoun referring to a whole clause, as opposed to, because that's what Eliot says, is that the word that refers to the whole clause. School is boring, not to a single word, and I'm a little troubled by that, but I'm just sort of tabling that for now. I'm going to think about it more, and I just say that in my little notes here, that ThoughtCo miscategorizes these three examples as being cases where that is used in clauses that act as the object of a verb, whereas really what's going on is the same phenomenon that Eliot talks about, where it's like, she would be late for class. Jennifer hinted that. He needed to hurry up. Doug knew that. We finished our homework. The teacher suggested that. So I think that's right. The other thing, I had a thought that one way of thinking about this stuff is, instead of thinking about like a semicolon or thinking about an implied and, you could think about it in terms of like this followed by a colon, like Jennifer hinted this, colon, she would be late for class. Doug knew this, colon, he needed to hurry up. The teacher suggested this, colon, we finish our homework. That's just another way of thinking about it. And so then the last thing I'm going to cover So this is talking about that in a clause as a complement to a noun or adjective. And initially I thought this was wrong, but I think they might be saying a similar thing to what Eliot talks about, just in a different way. So Eliot has this example, that relating a nested adverb clause. I'm happy that you got sushi. I see he's got this little arrow. That's relating the adverb clause. Now this ThoughtCo stuff says, that can be used in a clause following a noun or an adjective as a complement. A complement helps give additional information about the noun or adjective. It answers the question why. Now, if something is giving additional information about an adjective, it's an adverb, which is what Eliot calls this clause. So I think that could be fine. I think this particular example maps up really well. Peter is upset that his sister wants to drop out of school. I am happy that you got sushi. Peter's upset, I am happy. Peter's upset that, I am happy that. So this is pretty close. And I think this might be saying the same thing. So that is a few items of discussion of that. I went off on a big tangent about this determiner example I didn't like, trying to relate it to the dummy pronoun stuff. This is the example I didn't like. So maybe next time I'll do some more discussion of that.